I'll call this regular council meeting in the Village of Grand Manan to order at 7:30 p.m. With us for prayers, Pastor Andrew Duncan from the Lighthouse Church.
Father, we just thank you, God, for your wisdom, for your grace, for your mercy. God, we just ask tonight, God, that you would just lead us into wisdom, into all things that are needed as we discuss. God, let it come out in clarity. God, we just ask that there be unity within the decisions being made for the benefit of this island and the people that live here. God, we just ask for this community to be blessed by the wisdom that is led here. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. I just have a couple of quick things off the top for opening remarks. I think, first of all, congratulations and a thank you to the Trails Committee for all their work down at the Anchorage. We had a lot of really positive feedback, or I did, through the office, even though we had nothing to do with it. So yeah, I think, you know, it's really nice to see some of the pictures of people who are able to utilize the trail that hadn't been able to in the past. And the boardwalk is a nice addition to our community, and so to see that happen, I think, is a really good thing. The other thing that I wanted to say thank you for was the Christmas tree and the decorations here. We had a really lovely tree lighting that the Tourism Association put on. But I think we need to say a big thanks to the staff. I'm going to single out Howard in particular, who sourced the tree for us and has got the light in the lighthouse working. I've had a lot of compliments on the size of the tree and how it looks out there, so I think when people take the time to mention it, I think it's worth noting that it was a big hit. The other thing I did want to say while we're on the topic of Christmas is last year we didn't have the lights up because they weren't all working. This year we have the lights for the poles working, but there is not a truck that is available to put the lights up. So, but we apparently update, there is a truck, and hopefully soon we will have Christmas lights, so we can just ignore that previous announcement. This week, we will hopefully have lights, hot off the press. Told you I was not into this meeting tonight. The last thing, and this is kind of a special one, Councillor Sturgeon brought back from the UMMB meeting this 2 weekends ago a recognition for Councillor Philman Green for 12 plus years of service to the Village of Grand Manan Council, both as mayor and as a councillor. I think for anybody who's served on a committee like this or on council, you know the amount of dedication that it takes, and we really appreciate the service he has given to our community. So it gives me great pride to pass this on to Councillor Green. And I think that wraps up my opening remarks, and we can move on to disclosure of conflict of interest. Hearing none, we have several sets of minutes to adopt. They include a special meeting on November 2nd, the swearing in for the by-election on November the 6th, our regular council meeting on November the 6th, and a special meeting on November the 10th. And those were all circulated as part of the package.
I'd make a motion that we accept these minutes.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Dan, I'm going to assume silence is consent from you. If you're going to vote nay, just sing out nay. How's that?
I said I guess you didn't hear me. I'll straighten my hand.
Perfect. For additions to the agenda, we have a couple of bills from the General Operating Fund. There's a bill from Home Hardware for $2,800.17. That's for repairs to the lighthouse, Christmas lights, and DTI. And I also have a note to move Michael Green Electrical to be paid from the General Capital Fund. Our accountant has given us advice that we can pay that from there. So the fourth one, under approval to pay, we're just going to bump that down to General Capital Fund, if that's okay.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
And we have one more thing.
Oh, sorry.
And that will also require, after that, a motion to transfer $13,922.10 from the capital reserve to the General Capital Fund to cover the Michael Green bill. Does that make sense? Okay. You heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. And that brings us on to the RCMP report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Glad to be with you all tonight. I have my laptop here. It's not for any special reason other than I didn't have a chance to print out my remarks, so I'm just going to be reading from that tonight. Few things here. I first went and checked our kind of file counts. November last year to this year was actually very similar. Last year we responded to 69 files. And when I looked at that, we had 6 of those were files where there were criminal code investigations and charges were laid. And then this year, we had 67 files, and actually, again, we had 6 charge files out of those. I broke down those files to kind of what they were for. First off, I looked, just want to kind of report on what those charges are this last month. We had 1 file for resist arrest or obstruction of justice with 2 accused that we're looking at charges for. 1 failure to comply with release conditions, 1 for aggravated assault, 2 assault investigations with a total of 3 accused, and then 1 failure to comply with conditions investigation that did lead to a number of other charges being recommended, such as assault and uttering threats. And I also breaking down all of the files we responded to in November. 7 were some form of assault or violent offense. 1 break and enter where fingerprints were found at the scene and the investigation is ongoing with that. 2 failing to comply with conditions. 2 fraud reports. 1 mental health incident. 4 mischief files. 6 thefts. Now 3 of those were unfounded, which means that they're proven not to be a theft. Whether we are able to prove that it actually didn't happen at all or it doesn't meet the criminal standard of what theft is. And then 1 other of those thefts is still under investigation right now. 4 threat complaints and 2 well-being checks. As you might have noticed, Constable Stephanie DeWitt has transferred out after serving her 3-year term here. Her moving trucks were here maybe 2 weeks ago. She was very dedicated to serving her community, both on the job and also volunteering in her personal time. And so I just wanted to take a moment to thank her for her service to Graham and Ann. We're currently waiting on a new officer. 1 has been identified and the process has been started, but we don't really have a timeline yet for when we'll see them here on the ground in Graham and Ann. Now, I don't know if it was this last week or the week before, Madam Mayor, but we had conversation about the file counts for Graham and Ann that was noticed that those are on the rise. And we're believing that's partly due to the RCMP and the Village Council urging people to report things that are going on in the community. It was asked if this is leading to more charges being laid, or are we being more successful because people are reporting more? Now, this can be a hard question to answer as there's many factors that influence whether or not charges are laid, such as public and witness cooperation, and whether or not there's evidence to identify a suspect and support charges. I did ask for an analyst within the RCMP to run some of our numbers, though, to see if they could speak to whether or not criminal charges are going up or down or what they're doing over the last few years. What they did find, just looking at this year and the past 2 years, in 2021, we had 79 charges laid. In 2022, we had 88. And then in 2023, we actually had 177 charges to date right now. So that's, you know, a double what we had last year. The only comment I could really make for that is that I know this year we did have a number of files where the accused was charged with a number of offenses, so that would bump the number up some, but it's still very noticeable that this year we did lay many more charges compared to what has been in the past. The other thing that we had spoken about is the RCMP notifying the public more of the results of our investigations to help show that people are being held accountable for their actions. You may have seen our press release for a warrant of arrest for a man on Grand Manan this past week. This release helped us locate the individual and bring him into custody. That matter is still before the courts, and he has since been released by a judge following a bail hearing. But this is one example of when we will be putting what we will be putting releases out for, seeking the public's assistance in locating people when a warrant has been issued. We will also be making press releases when charges have been laid. Now, we can't release names until the charge has actually been laid in court, which can take some time from the onset of the actual report to the police, because the time the investigation takes and the time it takes to have that file put before the Crown prosecutors to review and ultimately approve the charge. So if you know an incident has happened and it's been reported, but there's no press release, don't get worried that nothing's happening yet. Either be patient, maybe we'll be able to put out a press release, but there are times also that we can't put out a press release because of confidentiality things. We can't release information that could identify the victim, or when the accused is a youth. We can't put those names out there either. So this is going to take us some time to adjust to doing this, as it's not normally our priority when we are investigating a matter. But I do feel that once the investigation is complete, it would be beneficial to show the public the results of the reports that are being made to us. That is my report for tonight. I don't know if anybody has any questions about. I know that's a little bit longer than what I normally speak to, so.
I just want to say thank you for getting those numbers on the charges. I think you could hear the reaction. Obviously, it is shocking to see that increase, and I think that was one of the concerns the day that we talked, that's what we had talked about, was that duration of time from when the incident happens to when charges are laid till ultimately it ends up in court. I think that there's a frustration when it appears that nothing is happening. So I think it's good to know that things are clearly happening. So, and I do appreciate that. So thank you. Any questions from anybody else? Thank you very much. That was a good report. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the 10-minute open session. Okay. We'll move on to new business. So 14.1 is holiday office hours, and that's me. I would like to suggest that we close the village office for the 3 days between Christmas and New Year's. A lot of other municipalities tend to close down over those 3 days in between the two holidays. The provincial government's also closed during that time. I made a point last year of coming in for each of the 3 days just to see what the activity level was here, and it was a handful of people coming in to renew fitness center memberships for the following month. It didn't appear to be anything that couldn't be done before the holidays or couldn't wait till January 2nd, but I think it would just make sense to give everybody a few days to regroup after our budget setting process and the very busy fall that we've all had. So that would be my suggestion, and I'm looking for comments or questions about that.
One question.
Councillor Sturgeon, yeah.
Sorry. Use of this new technology. Mayor's levy, you know, things have been shut down a little bit, such understandably in the last any talk or of maybe doing that this year?
We talked about a levy last year, and there didn't seem to be a lot of uptake from anybody around the table for it, so we kind of left it that if there was interest in doing it, that somebody would bring it back to the table, but I think at this point, it's a little late to try and get something together, so.
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, I do
Yeah.
respect that thinking in that regards, and but also to support to remember that not only is it time for food and fellowship with folks, but it's also a special time to give recognition to people who make our community as good as what it is, so just bear that in mind as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor Green? Yeah, if we could, I think that would be good.
Okay, I would move that we keep the office closed for the 3 days between Christmas and New Year's.
Heard the motion from Counselor Green. Do we have a seconder? I'll second that. Seconded by Counselor Toll. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. 14.2 is an EMO update, and this is hopefully going to be just a couple of points. On November 23rd, so about a week and a half ago, there was a regional EMO meeting. Councillor Boyd was going to attend with me, but he got called back to work in Newfoundland, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him since, so this will be an update for him as well. CAO Rayner was also present on the call, and Sherry Leslie from the fire hall. So it was a sort of a regional uptake on EMO. And I circulated the slides. They're kind of general at the end of last week. A couple of things that came out of that and that were identified post Hurricane Lee as well that I think we need to flag for here. One is a list of vulnerable persons to check on in the event of an emergency. And so we talked about that quite extensively at the meeting because there isn't a standard best practice, so to speak, of how to develop a list of vulnerable people. The fire department's working on it right now to some degree with oxygen suppliers because it's also good for them to know in the event of a fire who has oxygen on the premises. So after Christmas, there is the resiliency branch of public safety is going to come down with some others. We're going to talk about some different ways that we might compile that list. And so that will happen into the new year. So something to think about. Could be a little bit of money to go with that if we needed to do a mail out for people or something like that. So once we kind of get the plans around that, we'll be back to talk about it. The second part of that is RDC has recently expanded their funding mandate and will provide funds for emergency generators for shelters. So the CAO is currently working on an application because I know that's been a priority that we've talked about a number of times, is having a generator here at the community center to offer a warming shelter. So hopefully that might be financially profitable for us on that front as well. So, and then the third thing under the EMO update is unrelated to that meeting, but we had the Red Cross here a couple weeks ago. We have updated our contract with them, and they will provide reception services, other things in the event of an emergency. They have assessed the buildings. They know the type of facilities that we have here, the number of washrooms, showers, accessibility, all of those things. So that is up to date, and we have a plan in place with them in the event of an emergency. So just a bit of an update. Any questions on any of those items? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move on to 14.3, which is the 2024 budget, and I'm going to turn this over to the CEO to talk about this one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess there's not a whole lot to talk about. We did think that we were going to be in a position tonight to vote on the 2024 budget, but there's been some new numbers come out that I want to make sure that we've checked and double-checked before we finalize that final number. We don't want it to have any surprises. So at this point, we are not ready to approve the budget.
So, Madam Mayor, we need a motion to table after a special meeting call for that, I assume?
I don't think we need to motion to table. I think we can defer it to the next,
Okay.
to a special meeting. And we had talked about doing a special meeting like 18, 19, somewhere in that time frame to do any year-end transfers, anything else. So maybe we can flag that and hopefully be able to do it there if we have the updated numbers by then. Is that okay with everyone? Cool. 15.1, Solid Waste Committee Report. Councillor Toll.
Madam Mayor, it's been a while since I've really had too much to say about what's been happening, although there's been lots happening up there. So I just wanted to let everyone know what has happened over this year or the last few months. Just a short little blurb here. So our food cycle program has gone really well. That's where 50 people got the machines, to the big ones and the small ones. There was a couple of warranty issues with these, and they were solved quite quickly. The company was very quick getting them replaced or fixed or whatever. And the only thing that we're waiting now is when we all got these, we were to fill out a little survey at the end. So we've got some surveys done, but anybody who received one of these machines, there's a link on our Facebook page, and Esme has pinned it to the top, so you'll see it. It would take you less than 5 minutes to fill that out and just submit it, and then they will add up their stuff, and we'll get a report that says how we all felt about it and what was going on, and maybe someday we can do it again or whatever. So it'd be really great if everyone could please take that time and just take a few minutes and fill that out. The bottle depot has been nice and clean and sparkly. We have a new POS system installed to help keep track of empties. So you don't have to wait around. If it's busy, you can drop them off and put your name on your bag of bottles, and they will get counted and put on the account on our POS system, and you can stop back later to get the money or donate it or whatever you want to do with it. And I think they're working on, I was talking to the fellow the other day, and the internet is not working or something up there, so they're not getting the reports, so we need to look in and see what's going on with that. We have some new equipment at the transfer station that's making handling of waste easier. We have our C&D site has been cleaned up and new cover laid, and we're ready for the next few years. We've added a day cab for taking the trailer to landfill and an excavator to work in the C&D site and wherever it's necessary up in that area. We're working on, with the used fishing gear group, Sonia, to get more funding for removal of old rope and lobster traps. The request of funding has gone in as of yesterday, and we should know early spring whether we're getting funding to get some more of that moved. And we're also trying to figure out a way to move some of that rope now, because we're going to need that space. So anybody with big equipment who wants to have fun playing in a pile of rope, come join us and bring a couple of tools with you. And we have several things that we have started discussing with regards to handling of different recycling products that are going to be coming into effect later in the new year as well, with plastics and cardboard and several other things. So hopefully that will get underway in the spring, or as soon as we can get some help from government. And basically that was it, just to let you know that there has been some stuff happening, and we have plans to do a lot more than that. So, thank you.
Councillor Toll, any questions or comments?
Just one comment. I'd just like to throw out some recognition. I had a very excited transfer station employee call me this morning saying that he passed his Class 1 driver's test. So congratulations to Anthony Porter.
That is exciting news, yes. Anybody else? All right, approval to pay invoices, 17.1. See if I can get this somewhat screwed up. From the General Operating Fund, Safety Source Fire for the Fire Department bunker suits, $2,515. Beers Neal for the gas tax audit, $3,450. Jet Ice paint for the arena, $1,767.55. Dutchman Contracting, taking bottles to Moncton, $1,943.50. And Dutchman Contracting, ball field drain, $3,979. Oh, sorry, and Home Hardware for $2,800.17 for the lighthouse, Christmas lights, and transportation.
I'd make a motion to pay the invoices of the general operating fund.
You heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Toll. She beat you to it. Question? All those, oh, sorry.
We put a French drain in the ball field in Grand Harbor. It pools extremely bad because of the clay that's underneath. So I had a little bit of money left over in the budget, so I sent Tom up with his mini. He put a couple sections of perforated pipe in the infield and ran it down the worn-in track on the left field line and out into under the fence and into the ditch.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Contrary mind? Motion carried. From the General Capital Fund, we have Northern Construction for the airport project, $2,091,571.76. Route 776 Tire and Auto for splash pad storage, $206.94. Brunswick Engineering for the airport rehab, $11,570.65. Brunswick Engineering for the airport rehab, $3,887. And Michael Green Electrical for the light receptacles for $15,352.50.
I'd make a motion that we pay those from the general capital fund.
You heard the motion from Councillor Greenlaw. Seconded by Councillor Ballantyne. Any questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. And then we have a motion to transfer $13,922.10 from the from the capital reserve to the general capital fund.
So moved.
Heard the motion from Councillor Sturgeon. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 18.1, we have a closed session item for personnel for the dog constable.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Heard the motion from Deputy Mayor Fitzsimmons. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Ballantyne. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. I'll recall this regular council meeting back to order. It's 8:15. We had one item in closed session for the dog constable. We've agreed that we will be posting an ad to replace Stephanie Fleet, who has given up that position after 17 years. I think it bears saying, and we'll do something a little bit more formal as time goes along, but we have really appreciated the years of service Stephanie has given to that, most of the time, thankless position, and it's certainly evident the care and concern that she has for all of the dogs of our community. So we thank her for that. She's left some big shoes to fill. So with that, the next regular council meeting will be on January 8th, 2024, here at 7:30. Wishing everybody a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you all very much.